Welcome back, everyone. This is Daniel, and we are now at month 5 in my series Startup Ortho Practice. So month 5, it was a pretty busy month for me. It might seem like not a lot happened because it was a lot of phone calls back and forth, a lot of emails back and forth just to get some smaller things done. But I felt like I was talking to people 24/7 this month. So I'm gonna walk you through the people that I was talking to and the things that I got accomplished in this 5th month, and then you'll have to stick around till the end to see if the lease was signed or not. All right, let's jump right into it. It is April 2024. This is month 5 for me. The first thing that was done in week 1 of April was we finished up some edits to the lease because we wanted to get it back to the landlord right away. So a little bit of talking with the lawyer that's been helping me, the real estate agent, and I had some other eyes on it as well just to make sure we weren't missing anything. So we got that done and we sent back another version to the landlord. I also had a meeting with my accountant to talk about financials and potentially starting a DPC or a dental professional corporation. We had a Zoom call where we went over the pros and cons of starting a corporation at this stage in my career. And I don't really want to get into the specifics of what we talked about, but definitely good to ask someone who's familiar, who might have some dental clients or even some orthodontic clients as well, just to see what they recommend. After that, I spoke to a lawyer. So I just want to make it clear that I've been talking to 2 different lawyers. The first lawyer is a lawyer who's been helping me with the contract for my lease. So she's been doing a great job with that. And then this other lawyer, they're actually from the same company, but the second lawyer, he is helping me with setting up a corporation and some of the more financial and business, all those legal things that I don't really understand, but luckily he seems to. So 2 different lawyers, keep that in mind. And what I was talking to the second lawyer about is that I told him that for me, I do want to start a corporation, and the accountant and the lawyer, it seems like they work together to help me get registered and also register my business name. So I believe they were doing some communicating, and then also the lawyer was getting some forms ready for me to submit to my province's governing body, the dental college. Week 2, I actually made some good progress. I checked some things off the to-do list. The first thing that I did was I emailed the banker some updated information that he was asking for, and I just let him know that I had been speaking with an accountant and a lawyer. I also got confirmation that I had successfully created a DPC, and I had also registered my business name for my orthodontic practice, so that was good to cross off the list. We did get the lease back, and then of course there was another round of edits. So some of the things that we were looking at included the fixturing period and the leasehold improvements, some other finer details that really needed to be sorted out before either party could sign. And so this week, now that my corporation and my business name were registered, I submitted these files to the dental college where I'm gonna work, and just made sure that everything was registered and there were no loose ends. So I'm saying all these things pretty quickly, but just to let you guys know who are watching, it was a lot of emails back and forth, a lot of phone calls, lots of communication between different people on my team to get all of these things to proceed forward. So just know that you're gonna have to make some calls over lunch, before and after work. And it's a little time consuming, but it's okay. You can get there if you stay organized. Week 3 now, so surprise, surprise, there were more edits to do to the lease. This time it was recommended by my lawyer that I have a contractor look over the lease as well, because there were some things in the work schedule, things like who's responsible for what, like building a wall, tearing down, providing HVAC, just all these things that, again, I don't really understand. So that's why it's good to have a contractor, the person who was going to help me do the renovation for my office, just to get their eyes on the lease and have them see if there's anything that I was missing, that we were missing, before we send it back to the landlord again. Fortunately, I did know a contractor through my parents. This contractor does some work for my dad's office as well. So I explained the situation, that I'm gonna be opening up an office, and I just asked if they would be willing to take on the project and if he could help me by looking over the lease, just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything that is more in his domain. At this point, I also had another meeting with my orthodontic mentor, who in a past video I explained he helped share his thoughts on the ergonomics of an orthodontic practice, having a nice flow. This was the first time that I was telling him that my office space had changed from that smaller space I had mentioned in previous videos to this newer, bigger carved out space in the furniture store that was around 3,000 square feet. So before I showed him the plan, I had kind of used his advice to modify the plan with the designer. So when I met with him now, I had already incorporated a lot of the things that he taught me, and he had mostly positive things to say about the plan, but he did have a few more suggestions. So we talked through that, we wrote down some pointers, and then after we met, I was able to send those back to the designer to make the appropriate adjustments to this newer space. Another thing I accomplished this week was that I had the logo designer, the graphic designer, touch up a few things with the logo. I had her kind of do half the job, and I wanted to do the other half by myself. So this, I'll put it up here, is the logo that I'm gonna be working with, and through some help from her and then me playing around with the font and the colors, this is, we'll say 97% the final logo I want, where I want it to be how it's looking, and maybe some more adjustments between now and my opening date, but I'm pretty happy with how it's looking now. In the final week of month 5, the contractor got back to me, and he had picked up on some really good things in the lease, some stuff about the amount of like power, electricity that needs to be provided to me, the HVAC system, something about who's responsible for repairs on the roof. So it was really good to have the contractor and their knowledge take a look at the lease, because I didn't really know what these things meant, and the lawyer had an idea, but it's really within the scope of the contractor to pick out these things. So that would be my advice for you. Make sure you get lots of different eyes on the lease, people who have different backgrounds and different knowledge, so that all areas are covered. The dental sales rep who's been helping me so much throughout this whole process, he got an equipment list to me to look over, some of the bigger pieces of equipment for my office. I also met with a third practice management software rep. I know I was high on Dolphin and then high on Tops before in the last videos, but I had heard from one of my classmates whose opinion I really respect, and she suggested that I also look into Ortho 2 as well. I had kind of written it off, but I looked on their website and it seemed like it had a lot of really impressive features, so I set up a call with that rep. Some of the things I really like about Ortho 2 were the built-in animations, the built-in text reminders for patients. It seems pretty intuitive. They also have some features for virtual consults and appointment booking. So I'm really glad that I talked with the Ortho 2 rep, because I do think it is a potential option for me as well. And it seems to not really rely on third-party apps to fill in some of the blanks that other practice management softwares do. So I am a little bit more confused about which management software is the best, but I think the more information and the more options you have, the better. In one of the previous videos, I think I mentioned that I talked to Invisalign and they had some really good deals for new grads, but I also wanted to talk to ULab as well. I knew a rep from my time in residency, a guy that we went out with a few times, and I just reached out to him, explained my situation, and I just wanted to kind of feel him out because I would like the option, I think, to be able to print some cases, maybe for like relapse cases or even full cases in my own office. And ULab, I feel, gives the orthodontist a lot more control, the ability to do things in-house. So I talked with the ULab rep, we had a really good chat, and we had kind of agreed that we were going to talk a bit more in the future. So more to come on ULab versus Invisalign, or maybe both in certain situations. If you'll recall, the banker had emailed me maybe a month or two back with a list of things he was going to need as I request a big sum of money from the bank. So now that things were moving along, I kind of had a sense of how much my lease was going to be, how much some of the equipment was going to be. I started filling in the blanks to my business plan that I'd been working on. And I did send it over to the accountant, asking if he could take a look at it and help me create my final, let's say, request or proposal to the bank and some projections for the next 3 years, because these are the things that the bank wants to know before they can give me any money for my practice. The last main thing I did this month was I actually had a phone call with the office designer, and we had been communicating by email up until this point, but I just wanted to talk to her on the phone, and we went over it's a little bit easier, I find, person to person, what I'm trying to achieve, and certain things that are just easier to say through a phone call rather than over an email. So with the phone call and then some little edits I did to the drawing, she had a really clear understanding now of what I'm hoping to achieve in the office space. And I think that the office layout is also very close to being how I want it. Just have to make some final decisions now. In summary, month 5, the main things I achieved were I incorporated, I registered my business name, I reached out to a contractor, I kept talking with aligner and practice management software reps. I finalized my logo and I got the lease so close. It's still not signed yet, but I'm glad it's not signed in a sense, because it has really taken all of these edits back and forth to make sure I'm not missing anything. So maybe you could argue that I should have been more efficient, or I should have started this whole process sooner, which is fair, but every time we've edited the lease, it's come back cleaner. I feel a lot more confident when I'm gonna have to sign that I'm not gonna be making a mistake. So again, I think just patience with the whole process, and if the lease isn't signed in month 6, then I think we'll have a big problem, but I'm positive that within the next week or 2, it should be signed, and then I think the fun part really begins after that. All right, so thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can like and subscribe, and I hope to have some exciting updates for you next month. All right, we'll see you there.